Hi guys, and welcome to the Kalanand exhibition from the Prafulla Dhankar Art Foundation. It's a very new sort of competition that you guys can see around here. So there's lots of artworks that have won a lot of things, a lot of different awards from across India. This works from every part of the country, everything from photography to printmaking to painting to drawing to sculpture. It's quite a broad range of things, and yeah, I mean, I did participate. I didn't win, but sole losers are for sole losers, and there's actually some really good work here. There's a lot of print work that I really enjoy, and I've seen not enough woodwork, but a lot more etching, a lot more lithography. I hope people bring back wood carvings and woodcut printmaking because it's a beautiful art form. It's difficult to do, but the results are fabulous. So I'm going to just take you through a quick walkthrough and show you as much of the art as I can. I'm not going to really stop at any one particular painting because it'll take too much time, but here's just a little glimpse at some of the beautiful artwork that have won awards. There's stuff that goes off of different subjects, everything from abstraction to city life to monkeys sitting in a corner dealing with time. This is an example of a beautiful print. This is a woodcut. Now it's a color woodcut, which is a reduction process, which means you have to keep working on the piece multiple times over. This is an example of a finished wood block that's been turned into a print, and the artist has chosen to put up their wood block as the artwork instead of the actual print itself, which is quite interesting. This can be considered sand art. So there's a lot of pigment that's been applied and brushed on with the fingers like a rangoli style. This is a portrait of Prafulla Dhankar herself. She is the reason the foundation exists. She passed away recently, but the art lives on through her and her ideals. So it's quite interesting. That's a holographic print, which is another interesting process where you use pressure into different materials and get your artwork out. Another example of interesting installation styled artworks where you're using different materials to get the artwork created, like tea bags. This is another beautiful woodcut, which takes a lot of time to carve. I'm sorry that there's glass on the artwork, so I can't show you exactly what's in it because there's a lot of reflection, but this is a Linocut that's been turned into a color Linocut using again the reduction process. Lino is very similar to woodcuts, and if you haven't seen the process in which these are created, there are other videos on my channel which you can check out which shows the process of woodcut prints. I will leave a link in the description to those videos, or at least one of them, so you guys just get an idea of how lino cuts and woodcuts are created. So yeah, this is another color woodcut which is done in a reduction process. Now most of these people use a very soft kind of wood, which I don't. I prefer the harder plywood because I tend to get a little more texture from it, and I like that texture. But there's a lot of people who prefer a softer finish and a softer sort of look to the artwork, as well as using a softer wood to carve more intricately. I prefer slightly blockier, slightly heavier images, but of course to each his own because everyone's art style is very different. Here is a bit of portraiture for you. Oops, sorry about that. A little difficult handling things when you've got things in your hand, but here we go. So this is Chinmaya Pandya's work, for example. Portraiture is a very deeply rooted Indian tradition where we use a lot of work to tell stories of people, of images, of places. And then of course we have abstraction. So abstraction is another very important part of the Indian culture itself. We are one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, and our tradition with abstraction is also quite old and quite heavy, where we've dealt with a lot of things like spirituality with that. So it's important to see that we're continuing the tradition as well as bringing in contemporary imagery. So this is digital art now, which is slightly more modern, if you want to call it that. And right next to it is a pen drawing. Now, I want you to look very closely at this. There's a lot of work that goes into this. And then, of course, you have sculptural works which involve a lot of different materials. I'm not sure what this side looks like canvas to me, but I'm sure it's something a little denser and heavier than that, but interesting to see nonetheless. This is a lithograph print, which is another form of printmaking where one uses lithograph blocks, or litho blocks as they're called, and inks as well, using the principle that oil and water don't mix. So the drawing itself is oil based, which picks up the ink once it's rolled on, and the rest of the block rejects it, and therefore you get a lithograph print. These are tapestry and textile artworks. Very interesting to see. Now I really like these things because in school we were taught just the basics of like simple stitches and cross stitches, but there was still a lot of fun, and to see them actually turned into knitted works is quite exciting. So this exhibition is an exhibition of all the winners of the artworks of the Kalanand competition, which, like I did say earlier, I did participate in, but because there's so many people entering and so many artworks to choose from, obviously not everyone can win. So maybe I'll have a little bit of better luck next time. But in the meanwhile, a lot more traditional Indian styled artworks. There's stuff that goes back into the mythology that we have in this country, the reproduction of the images of creatures and places and people, stories that have been told for years and years and years and are now just being reborn. And now we have Prafula Dhanuka's work itself. She was mainly an abstractionist towards the end, and she worked with people like Gaitonde and Vallabhbhai Desai Institute to create these artworks, where she set up a studio. And this is something that she mentioned herself: my paintings show eternal space, deep, absorbing, and always calm. The paintings are a window for the mind to escape into this peaceful space and attain tranquil, steady state. They bring peace to our inner self. Her choice of colors is very interesting to me, has always been. To be fair, I haven't always been a big fan of her works. There are some works like this red one that really do interest me. But this style of abstraction is something that isn't suited to everyone. You really need to like this style to be able to appreciate the artwork, which goes for any other form of art, including my own. So when people say, oh, I don't get your work, that's fair to say, because I don't always get everyone else's work. So having an open mind and being fair to everyone is important in the art scene, in the art world especially. For example, tapestry styled works like this tell important stories, but not everyone can appreciate them, which is a sad thing because not many people are willing to, and I think that needs to be changed. And this is a good way of changing that by presenting these artworks in an exhibition of winners. Shows what possibly could be the best of the best in the country at that point in time. And definitely there is always going to be better artwork that's hidden in the shadows because you can't see everything. Everything is not available to the naked public in terms of their open viewing. So this is interesting to see nonetheless. Now, if you notice, I haven't mentioned sculpture much, but that's mainly because I don't get sculpture very much. So I'd rather not spoil the work by saying something that I don't understand. So I will leave that to you to understand and to formulate your own opinions. But sculpture is difficult. It is an important form of art. And I, for one, will never stop appreciating the fact that people are willing to create work in a three-dimensional space that I know myself I cannot fill. We all have our roles. They're important in themselves. And I think it's important that we all try to find where we fit in. It's important to see who is good at doing what and tell the stories that they need to tell.